We are recording.
Right.
So today with me on the Black Gold podcast is Jevon Wooden. And Jevon, first of all, I want to say thank you for your service. You're welcome. Thank you. So getting started, you are a professional speaker and you're also a personal coach. How did you get into the personal coaching scene, and what aspects of your training did you incorporate into what you teach today?
Yeah, sure. So, I got into coaching because, like, back in the day, everyone would say, "Hey, man, you give great advice." I feel like, every time I speak to you, I'm motivated. You should be a motivational speaker. You just have this way to make people feel better about themselves, etc. And I was like, that's actually pretty cool. I love helping people. I've had a journey that I feel provides me intuition to help others, situations. So I started looking in 2017, like what could I do? I don't want to just speak all the time. And I found coaching, I found life coaching. And I went through the training and all that stuff actually while I was deployed to Afghanistan. So I was like going through this stuff and it just spoke to me. It just spoke to me like, oh man, just going through the peer coaching and seeing the power of it is why I started. And then incorporating training. Military training, I feel like goes in everything because that's why we wanted to become a mindset coach, right? To understand the power of having the proper mindset in all aspects of life. So I incorporate some of that through my how I speak to people, that communication, and then how like you have empathy, right? Because when we used to go out and speak to other people, that was one of the big things, right? Building those relationships, building that union, and building up trust.
So you said that you really got going around 2017.
Yes.
What was the reason? What was the decision that you made that that year, 2017, that you're going to go forward and switch from becoming just a motivational speaker into a personal
Mhm.
coach?
Yeah. So what made me want to do it more was, one, I know motivational speakers, they travel a ton, and I still wanted my autonomy to be able to be where I wanted to be, right? I knew how I was tired of traveling from the military, and I didn't want to just have to pick up and go live out of a suitcase, etc. And with coaching, I can do it from anywhere and impact anyone in the world, right? So I knew that that was one of the main reasons, right? Just being able to be wherever I wanted to be and still have my freedom and autonomy to be wherever I was at the time.
Was there anyone who was able to help you in terms of developing those personal coaching skills?
Yeah, I don't have like one person specifically. I think that just over time, people who allowed me, who shared what was going on in their lives, really helped me hone my skills and really helped me become comfortable with speaking to people in that way, no matter what the issue was.
Are there some lessons that they taught you that you could share with us today?
For sure. Active listening is one of the biggest lessons, not listening to respond, but really listening to understand. Because a lot of times when you're speaking to someone, or when someone's speaking to you and they come to you, they confide in you, they don't want you to actually say anything, right? A lot of times they just need to vent and get it out. And as they're speaking, they come up with their own solutions. And a lot of that is what coaching is, right? I do kind of like a coaching consulting collaboration where I'll listen and then I'll let my clients go through and try to develop their own situations. But then the consulting aspect is I'll say, you know what, if I see a clear view of what would work for them, I'll say, hey, how about we try this, right? How about we try this? And if it doesn't work and if it doesn't agree with you, then we just try to work and brainstorm another action plan. Second thing that I learned from that is empathy, the importance of empathy when you're speaking to someone, right? Sympathetic is, you feel for that person, and then empathy is feeling as that person, right? So instead of saying, what would I do if I was in my shoes? I look at it from their perspective, try to get a holistic view of everything that's going on that is tied into this situation. And I think that is very important because what I may do in a situation is definitely not what they might do in a situation. I have to understand that they're coming to me with their life, going through what they've gone through, and the options I see, options I understand, they might not have been able to think of it because they're in it, right? You're in it, you can't quite see all the options you have. So I had to take myself out and look at it from that bird's eye view perspective and say, okay, they've gone through all these things, and this is probably why they feel like they don't have the confidence, or they don't have any other options, because they tried so many things and it just didn't work. So I had to look at it from that point of empathy.
So it's active listening and empathy
Mm-hmm.
are the two things, the two key takeaways that you impart in terms of coaching someone through either a difficulty or trying to get them to the next level of where they want to go. Has there been a
Mm-hmm.
point in either your personal life or when you were learning how to become a personal coach? Was there
Mm-hmm.
any point during that time where you felt like you were doing something wrong and that you shouldn't be on that path?
Oh yeah, all the time, actually. I mean, I think that that's just a part, as I was coming up, right? Because 2017, what I took a break, right? I took a break in between then and earlier this year when I restarted, because I had to get myself right. And I think that it was important for me to take a step back and really fill my own cup up before I started trying to pour into others, right? Because at the point I was struggling with, really bad PTSD, depression, and I wasn't in a position to serve. So that's when I was like, okay, it's not right for me to go ahead and serve these clients because I'm not in a position to, right? So I took that step back. I mean, it took me, as you know, like 2 years, right? It took me 2.5 years to get to the point where I felt like I was ready to do it again.
So it was the idea that you know that you have your own shortcomings and that you also know your clients have shortcomings,
For
but
sure.
you need to first, in a way, accept and overcome your own shortcomings in order to provide assistance to the
Yeah, I
client.
think I think that's, you said it perfectly. I think it's so important for coaches, life coaches, mindset coaches, and all of us to really ensure that, no one's perfect, right? And that needs to be conveyed. One, I'm all about vulnerability, I'm all about transparency, and I'm all about non-judgment, right? So I had to make sure that I could be vulnerable in a way that felt authentic to me. I had to make sure that I could actually listen to everything that was going on with my clients without drifting off thinking about my own things, right? I had to make sure I could be there, be in the moment. You can't do that. I mean, I can't do that. I can't say you can't, but I can't do that if I'm just tired all the time, if I'm drained, if I know that I'm going through my depressed phases, myself. Like, you can see if you follow me on social media that I put that out there, right? I'm not hiding anything, right? If I'm depressed, I'll make a video like, hey, I'm not feeling up to it, right? I'm laying in bed still right now, because I think it's important as a coach that your clients see that you're a human, right? That your clients see that you go through these things too, right? It's not all glitz and glam, right? The things that I learn from are the same things I see my clients going through now. That intuition is very important for me. You see a lot of people saying they're coaches, but coaches is a non-regulated industry, and they have not gone through the necessary steps to really truly serve their clients. And I feel like they're doing them a disservice. I don't want that to be me, right? I want to give my clients the transformation that they deserve, the transformation that they paid for, the transformation that they came to me for.
So, how during COVID-19 were you able to change your business from what it was previously to what it is now?
Yeah, I think COVID-19 was actually a great time for me to reevaluate everything, right? Business, life, everything. In my business, I just started implementing systems to make things a lot smoother for the client, right? Implementing automation, right? You can go to my site and book a call, and it'll pop up right on my calendar, right? The Zoom link will be sent to you immediately. If you have to change things, you have to reschedule automatically. Payments, right? You can automate your payments now. You don't have to contact me like, hey, I'm ready to pay, right? I have a whole CRM, or customer relationship management system now, that it just puts them through a customer journey, which is seamless. They only have to really interact with me if something's going on, right? Other than that, they can download their free resources, right? I have courses coming out now, which I wouldn't have had before, because COVID really forced me to sit down along with a lot of other people. It forced me to sit down and really reevaluate what I was doing. So I think that, you know, it really allowed me to create content that serve my clients in a way that is evergreen versus me always having to be there.
Yeah, and also the thing about it is that it also gives you time to reflect. Then also, if you are someone who is a bit of a perfectionist, you can also, you know, you record something once and you can go back and you can edit it, tweak this, change that, switch this up. And so it gives you that time that you usually don't have in a, you know, fast paced, need this, you know, next week kind of thing. You can take your time with it as long as you want it to go for. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Just you saying that made me think of the YouTube videos, right? I first started it I think 3 months ago, right? And they suck. Like I'm looking at them now, I'm like, man, but you have to take imperfect action, right? You have to take imperfect action, you know, and that's what COVID allowed me to do, right? I put it up there. I just said, hey, I'm gonna start this, I'm gonna go for it. You know, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't even thought about creating YouTube. I wouldn't have thought about creating courses. You know, I would have just been like, you know what? I'm still working full time and I have this business, you know, on the side, and it might have just stayed that way. But this has forced me to really grow the business.
Yeah. And it's also the idea that you don't have to start perfectly. You just have to start. And once you start, you can learn like, oh, like this mic is better than that mic. And, you know, you can get some lighting up in here and it looks all nice and sweet. But apart from that, yeah, just start with whatever you have. You have your phone, computer, you know, your books, just do whatever you can with what you have.
Right. For sure. I love that. Yes. Imperfect action. That's all you have to do. Just take that step. You can get better as you go, you know. On the job training is some of the best training you can have.
Exactly. Are there any books you've been reading recently, especially through COVID, that have either informed or taught you different things in terms of how you live every single day, and also just what you do generally in terms of your business?
For sure. I mean, I've been reading a lot of marketing, sales, and all that stuff, those types of books, like Building a Story Brand. What else? Marketing Made Simple, all those things for business. But I think the book that really stands out in my mind right now, that's helped me personally and professionally, is The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. I think that book it's not long, right? It's that stoic thinking, and it really helps you look at change your perception.
Yeah, I love that
You
book
read
too. That's one of my favorites. Yes.
So I think that
yeah, he gives like beautiful examples too from like different ranges, different sources. It's incredible.
Yes. So I definitely recommend the listeners, you know, go ahead and pick that one up.
Yeah. And also it's the idea of overcoming, like as the title suggests, it says the obstacle is the way. You use your disadvantages, you flip them and turn them into advantages. And then you attack your goals, your dreams from that perspective. And so it just goes so much faster because you're going in sync with what is happening rather than going against it, causing some resistance to actually get what you want to get done.
Yeah, it's mental jujitsu, man. Mental jujitsu. It's like using that leverage. I always say turn negatives to positives, and that's why I think, you know, I like it so much as well.
Yeah, it's a wonderful book. Absolutely wonderful book.
Sure.
Yeah. Has there been anything else that you've been either, I don't know, like watching or listening to during COVID that has helped you out?
Yeah. There's a few podcasts I like. Like I love Earn Your Leisure. You know, those brothers are doing their thing.
Yeah.
I love what the platform they're putting out there. Watching, I haven't really watched too much that's like set apart. So if you have some recommendations, or your listeners have recommendations, I'm all for it. I'm trying to get more into it. I definitely love documentaries, but I haven't like sat down and watched many of them. Other than that, I mean, probably I listen to a lot of audiobooks, right? And I think that's probably where a lot of my time goes, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. I just love, especially when it's the author, right? When it's the author, I just love hearing their perspective and the side notes. Nonfiction, I don't know if you like it, but there's a book called Children of the Children of Blood and Bone. I just listened to that. I think that's an amazing story if you love nonfiction.
Now, what's it about?
I'm sorry, not nonfiction, fiction.
Fiction.
Nonfiction, I meant fiction. Yeah, because it's a dope story.
So in terms of where do you live right now? You're living in Houston?
Houston, Texas. Yes, sir. I
Houston.
moved here in Thanksgiving of last year. So still
Uh,
learning my way, but I'm loving it.
that's nice. How's it been since you moved in there?
Oh, it's been dope, man. Just it's something for everyone here. It's such a large city, but just the green space, even though it's flatlands, it's just having all the parks around. You can go for a run, you can go for a walk, just chill. I think that just brings that goodness out of you. Nature is such a part of healing and restoring yourself, and it's a lot of it. And then it's just some beautiful like murals and art. There's tons of museums, all the stuff I love to do. Houston has, a bunch of bars, bunch of outdoor seating, and the people here have been very welcoming. Just going out and networking. Of course, COVID kind of limits things. Not here because everything's open, but if you're responsible, COVID can limit things, and so just doing what I can as far as networking and establish like social circle and all that stuff. It's been very great. I moved here from Maryland, from Largo, Maryland, and DC when at the time when I moved was completely shut down, and there again, COVID. I probably wouldn't have moved here if it wasn't for COVID. So COVID, it was the opportunity to look and really do some introspection about what I truly wanted, right? And I didn't want those high prices of paying in the Northeast anymore. So I said, I'm coming down.
That's nice. Now, why did you choose Houston rather than Austin? Because I know like a lot of entrepreneurs, especially now, more recently, creative entrepreneurs are gathering into Austin. Why did you choose Houston?
Yeah, I chose Houston, man. Houston is the most diverse city in the country right now. That's one thing. And then when you talk about cost of living, Austin is closer to those Northeast prices. Houston is like
Okay.
very, very cheap, considering like that is the third largest now metropolitan area. Black people are doing very well. There's a ton of options for entrepreneurs. There's businesses coming up every day. The assortment of restaurants and amenities is top notch, and it has those two airports, so I know I can get out if I want to travel. It's just a ton of different reasons, man. Like when I was doing my research, I looked into all of that, right? How many people? What's the influx of people? New builds, like how much are they building new apartments and housing? That's a great sign. Job creation, job growth is doing very well. Either top or close.
That's nice. So it's pretty cool. You get to be
Yeah.
around, and it's metropolitan. It has different things, as you said, museums, different. Oh, Houston has incredible
Yeah,
food scene, and especially an
man.
incredible ethnic food scene too. Yeah, yeah, different
Yes, for sure.
Asian places, Ethiopian places, East African
Yes.
places. Yeah,
Yes, that
incredible.
diversity kicks in. You see it everywhere you go, man. It's like, and it's cool because like every neighborhood legitimately has its own feel, you know.
Yes.
So I like that as well. You go drive to Rice, the Rice University area, completely different from like Midtown and all that. So I love that too. Like I can explore and just like, I'm a big kid at heart. So I like to explore and find new things and new stuff to do. Right. So it just hit the spot, man. And I hadn't visited previously. Right. I think I came here for a few days in September. Then I moved in November. I just took the chance. Sometimes you got to take that leap of faith.
Yeah. Has there been anything you've been wanting to do recently, ever since you moved?
Yeah, I just completed one, man, writing the book. I just completed writing my book. That was such an amazing experience. Just going through and saying, all right, I want to be an author. That was one of my things. And then finally becoming one, right? It's in the editing phase now. That's been a blessing. Travel more. I wanted to do more stateside travel instead of going overseas. I've started to do that. I went to Arizona, which was dope. Amazing experience, so majestic out that way. And I want to hit a few more states and cities before this year is out, COVID willing. If COVID allows us to do so, I'd like to do that. I've never been to Louisiana. That's one of the places I'm on this. And then just more more time with myself, being able to just chill, not traveling all over the place, not driving everywhere. Right? I live in Midtown here in Houston, and just being able to like stay within my area if I want to and get so many different types of food and have so many different types of experiences has been a blessing. It's just, everything here has just been, it's like things have just taken off since I've moved.
It's incredible. And how long did it take you to write your book?
To write my book, it was over the course. So I went through, I actually had a coach. Her name is Taria Avant, if anyone is interested. I went through her, and she has a program where you do like 6 weeks of pre-work, and then you have a 3-day boot camp weekend, and you write your book then, right? So that's how the process went. So it was real dope. It's real dope. Voice typed it like in 3 days, all the content.
That's nice. So what was all the pre-work? What did you have to do before you could actually get out the
Yeah.
book?
Yeah. So in the pre-work, so you have where you develop who your avatar is, like who you're trying to speak with, right? And then you talk about like what your chapters are going to be, and then you develop your sub chapters. She tells you how to create like your sell page, your capture page, your flyers, all these different things you create that I wouldn't even thought about, how to get your ISBN number, all those different things she teaches you. And then she supports you along the way, which is really, really dope.
So what tool did you use to transcribe your book?
Yeah, just Google Docs. Google Docs has the voice transcription. I'll just use that.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
how long is it? How many pages do you have in your book?
I'm still getting it formatted, but I'm assuming it's going to be just based on like how long the manuscript was. It'll probably be like around 130, somewhere around there. So it's called Own Your Kingdom. It's about increasing your confidence, building your self-esteem, and controlling your mindset so you can control your destiny. In it, I cover vulnerability, like how to become more vulnerable and the importance of that, right? When you're trying to heal, forgiving yourself, how to do it, what it looks like, building your self-esteem, as I said. I cover how to like establish relationships, goal setting and prioritization. It's just an assortment of different things that I cover that I think is really key in what I call owning your kingdom, because owning your kingdom really is all about having control of your emotions, being able to communicate effectively, not catastrophizing things, right? Realizing that things that are happening are temporary, right? They're not finite. So if you make a mistake, you can get over that, right? You can, as long as you waking up, you have a chance, right? It's all about creating opportunities instead of waiting for opportunities. And I think that that's very important in, owning your kingdom.
Nice.
Yeah.
So in terms of writing a book, what would you say has been a pro, and what would you say has been a con?
Yeah. I'll start with the cons first, say the good for last.
Cool. I like that.
Yeah. The cons of writing a book, I would say, is when you go through and you're editing and you're rereading it, there's so many things you're like, oh, I want to change this. I want to do this, right? Because again, that perfection monkey is on your back. You're like, man, I want to make this awesome, this perfect. I don't feel like I'm adding as much value as I want. So that's one of the cons, right? If you do that, you will never get your book out there. you will never release that book. So you really had. That's why a coach is really good. She really pushed you to just say, put it out there, right? Edit it, make sure there's no hangups and all that stuff. Get it out there. Another con would be that if you do mess up on something, it's evergreen, right? Unless you go ahead and change the manuscript, it's out there now, right? So you want to really make sure that you're conveying the message you want, right? You want to really make sure it's in your voice and there's not a lot of grammatical errors and all these other things, or people are going to look at you like, what was that, right? But I think that the pros definitely outweigh it, because the pros are that you're getting out your voice out there. It's like what you're saying, your message lives in these pages. right? And it opens up so many opportunities for you. You talk about speaking engagements. You talk about people knowing who you are. You talk about the impact of the lives potentially you could impact if they get your book. It's just so many pros to it. You talk about being able to say finally, like, hey, this will live beyond me, right? This could be the legacy. I'm leaving a legacy in these pages, right? These are my thoughts. And people take you seriously. You're looked at as a thought leader as long as it's not a crappy book, right? As long as you're actually saying something in it, you can be seen as a thought leader. And for me, that is very important because what I'm trying to do with this business is it's not about money. It's not about being known. It's not about any of that. It's about being able to get the message of healing out there. It's about letting people know that they have the power inside of them, but they have to be willing to take a chance, right, on themselves. You got to be willing to bet on yourself, right? Any person who has done anything has been rejected. They've been told their idea is stupid, right? You think about Jeff Bezos when he was leaving that Wall Street gig. His boss was like, "Are you crazy? You leaving a six-figure cush job to sell books?" Right? You think about that. This guy is the richest man on earth. So you have to be willing to invest in yourself. You have to be confident in that. And you can't be afraid to fail. I talk about that in the book as well. Failure should actually be seen as a good thing, right? Your relationship with failure will be what dictates whether you go far or you stay stagnant. Right? Because if you believe that failure is a bad thing, if you believe that failure means that you can't obtain what you're going for, then you already lost. You've already defeated yourself, right? So you have to look at failure and fear as propellers, right? Because those are learning methods. Those are lessons you've learned that you can now apply later on. A lot of the people that we hear about today, they were probably rejected thousands of times before they got that one hit. It only takes one. It only takes one hit, and now you hit the jackpot, right? But you also have to be able to sustain it, and that's where that own your kingdom comes in, having control of your emotions, your mindset. So when you do hit it, you don't lose it and lose your mind and start doing all these crazy things.
Yeah, and it's also, as you said, failure. Doesn't mean that it's over. It's just that you're on pause. And also, the cool thing about failure is that when you fail doing something, what you have learned remains with you. Then once you start over, you have an unfair advantage in terms of your knowledge, your experience, and that you can then get the same amount of growth within half the time or less, because you have already gone over the foundations, the basics, the fundamentals. And so you're never failing from zero. You're always failing from where you are, what you've learned. And if you're failing off of the basics, you already have a launching pad. So you don't have to rebuild that launching pad in order to know where to go. You just need to fix your trajectory in terms of where you want to go, aim, and fire, and you're good to go.
Yeah. I love that analogy. I always use those too. I always use rockets because, rockets are interesting because, the same things that propelled them started to weigh them down. And then they went to release, they go ahead and they go higher, right? So it's like, it's kind of the same premise.
So what are you going to be up to in the upcoming weeks?
In the next couple of weeks, man, I do videos, YouTube videos every Thursday and Sunday. So Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern time and noon Eastern time on Sunday. So I'm just trying to batch content now, create that. I'm really looking to expand my Instagram presence. So I'll be doing more lives, right? More reels and all these other things. Just trying to package down all of my content into easily digestible pieces, right? And then I'll be doing more of this, more podcasts. I really want to start taking this show on the road. I have a book conference coming up once I release that. I'm looking at end of September, early October to do the book. Those who have purchased my book pre-sale are, in for a surprise, right? They're in for a treat if they've already purchased the book. So Purchase the book now if you haven't, while it's in pre-sale. And then, I really want to start speaking more, right? Doing more motivational speaking, more engagements. I have one coming up this Friday where I'm speaking to an organization called CompTIA, right? Doing a graduation commencement ceremony speech. So I want to do more of that and just more organizational pieces where I speak to organizations and just grow it. And then I've started recently coaching people who have been incarcerated for 20 years plus, who have been, reintegrated into society, just to try to get them that mindset over time. They have the mindset of being in there, right? Just trying to get them to bring it back and focus on where they are now, which is freedom, right? But if you're not mentally free, you're not free at all. So just trying to get them to see that, like things that they used to do in there, they don't have to do that anymore. So I want to start doing that more and more work with the youth.
Yeah. And also, since they've been incarcerated for usually long periods of time, 5 years plus, they could also, while they're in there, they could be able to learn and grow and understand things about the world that they wouldn't have had the opportunity to do so, even if they were in their previous circumstances. But now that they have the time to do it, they have the time to learn, to grow, and they are also able to then, once they get out, apply those lessons that they've learned from reading, from discussing, from even the interactions with people from different walks of life.
Yes.
Also, those kind of interactions are helpful in terms of their growth in the world.
Yes, 100%, 100%. So there's some intelligent people, man. There's some intelligent people with those unfortunate circumstances, right? And they don't see the opportunities or the options, right? And I've been there, right? I was facing 7 years myself, right? So I got a soft spot for that. I've been, in that position where you're like, this is the only thing I can do to get some money, right? To take care of my family, right? But when you start thinking, especially in this day and age, right, you have this day and age is the best, right, for us, because you have all the information at your fingertips, right? You can really reach out to people who've done it, like literally DM them, right? People who've done it, or go on their website or whatever. It's the information age, right? Anything you want to know, you can pretty much find out. And you have access to people that you otherwise would have never been able to talk to in any capacity, right, back then. So we had to take advantage of that, right? And we had to catch the youth right now, right? And let them know that the options are endless these days, right? You don't have to go into the streets. You don't have to, be doing these types of things anymore, because you can create courses, right? You can create ebooks, you can create YouTube videos, you can do all types of things to generate income and to get yourself out there, right? So there's really no need to be sitting on the corner, right, all day, every day, when the risk definitely outweighs the rewards, right? There's really no need to sell yourself in that way, right? You don't have to, right? We now have options. It's up to us as a people, as a community, to show that, right? To try to live on that right path and catch the youth who have strayed, who's at risk for going down the wrong one, right? So I really want to emphasize that, and I really want to do my part in it.
So if you're someone who wants to encourage youth to do things that will allow them to be a benefit to society, how would you go about establishing a speaking career?
Speaking career, there's different organizations, right? You can go through. Like, one I like to recommend people is like the National Speakers Association. They usually have chapters in different cities and stuff, but you can go online, right? I think that's one of the big things. Toastmasters is a great way to do it. If you're older and you have like a profession, you have some type of skill, try to get like a TED Talk. That's next on my agenda. Just get like a local TED Talk here in Houston. Those are short, 10 inches or less typically. So there's a ton of different options. And I always say invest in yourself. Like, if that's something you really want to do, and, just find a way to like sign up, get a coach, get a mentor, get someone who's been there so they can guide you and help you expedite your success.
Are there some things that you've learned through your own public speaking career in terms of tips and tricks that people usually don't know when to look at a speaker on the stage? Would you mind sharing that with us?
Sure. I think it's important to pace yourself, right? Pace yourself when you speak. And I think it's important to realize that making a mistake is not the end of the world. If you misspeak, you can just, pause or say, excuse me. If you lose your pace, you always want to have like a back pocket, right? If you forgot what you were going to say, you always want to have like a go-to, right? That you can say whatever and spin off of anything, right? So I think that's important. So if you freeze and you're like, dang, what was I going to say? Have a go-to that has hit multiple times, or it sounds great, that you can kind of tie into other things, and that'll allow you to speak. And then when you're looking out, if you look past the audience, if you have fear of looking at a lot of people, look past the audience, right? Find a point on a wall or something that you can constantly recenter yourself on, or find a certain person in the audience that you look at that you feel comfortable with, right? Before you even start talking, scan it, and see and find your people. If you look this way, find one person. If you look the other way, find one person. And that way you always stay level, right? You don't feel that panic. You don't feel that thing because you feel like you're only talking to one person, right? And that's who you should be talking to. When you're publicly speaking, your message is for that avatar that you've talked to 1,000 times before, in your mind. And that's another thing you want to visualize yourself doing that speech and doing it well, and practice in the mirror, or record yourself saying it so you get your cadence down. Also, like, tell someone, like, speak to someone, have someone you can be like, hey, I wrote another speech. You mind listening? That will actually tell you the real deal, right? Let you know if, you need to change some things, let you know if your pace is off. You want to have all these things. But most importantly, just start. Just find someone. And if you got to be like, hey, go to a little school and like, hey, I want to speak to the kids today. They probably will. They probably be like, okay, what's your message? Right? Start there. Start small. You don't have to go to these concert hall speeches yet. There's going to take some time to build up. People have doing that, like E.T. and all them, Tony Robbins. They've been doing it for forever. It's very rare that you're just going to magically ascend like out of the gate, right? Start small, build yourself up, realize success is gradual. You're going to make mistakes, but as you said earlier, it's lessons in that, right? Your baseline is different once you mess up. And then once you mess up, you realize it's not the end of the world. You realize sometimes it's good for you to mess up early on, because you realize, like, man, I made a mistake and ain't nobody got hurt. Nobody died. I'm still speaking. So it's all good. Right. And so.
Yeah. So in terms of, as you said, people who mess up, they need to recompose themselves. Then they need to continue their speech. What are your thoughts on using humor? Like, I know a few speakers, like in the first 2 minutes, it tells some joke regarding the topic of the speech, and then the audience laughs, and then they go into their speech. What are your thoughts on humor in terms of using it?
I think humor is a great opener, because one of the things I learned, like just going through my MBA, going through the my public speaking course, a business communication course, was you don't want to start boring. If you just start like, hey, I'm Jevon Wooden, I'm a mindset perception coach, no one wants to hear that. That's why when people start, they usually start with a story, a shocking statistic, some humor, right? Because they want that catch. You want to hook the audience in. So I think that if you're funny, I'm not very funny, right? Not intentionally anyway. So I don't typically start with but if you are funny, I say that is a guaranteed way to hook and reel the audience.
So start off at the beginning, as you said, short joke, a short story. Then after that, make sure that you found your people and that you're looking at them across the audience. Make sure that you pace yourself. And whenever you pace yourself, do you pace yourself to the people that you're looking at, or do you pace yourself to the entire audience?
So when you're pacing yourself, you just want to make sure you're not rushing through what you're saying, right? You need to be clear when you're speaking. You need to make sure that you're understood. And then you want to make sure that you're giving yourself time to breathe, because we know, like, if we don't get enough breath, you start to trail off a little bit as you speak, because you're trying to, get it all out there. So you want to pace yourself where you'll be clear, your voice is projecting properly. You want to pace yourself where you're catching your breath. And then you want to also use like hand movements, right? You don't want to stand there stiff. You want to make sure that you're in strong positions, power positions, make sure your posture is upright, and also make sure like you're using hand gestures, because a lot of people, that keeps them engaged. If you're just standing there looking like a board, people are going to start looking elsewhere. So you want to make sure you use everything, everything that you have, right? Slides, props, whatever you have to keep people engaged. But most importantly, you want to make sure that they hear you and you sound confident when you're speaking.
So in terms of sounding confident and also pacing, would you say that if you're nervous, just starting out, would you say that speaking slower is better, or would you say find your pace and stick with that?
Yeah, I would say, one, if you're nervous, let the audience know you're nervous, or you're excited. That's the one thing you should do, right? If you come out and it's your first time speaking, you say, "Whoo, man, like I'm excited, right? I'm so nervous, right? I always get these butterflies when I come out, seeing y'all, I'm just feeding off this energy, gives me butterflies, right? Use that to get them engaged, because now they've disarmed. And if you mess up, they're like, okay, that's just the nervousness, right? Naturally. So you want to go ahead and convey your feelings, right? First and foremost. And then when you talk about pacing, it's just really up to you, right? You always want to give the audience some energy. You don't want to put them to sleep, right? But a lot of times, it depends on what you're doing. Like, is it lecture style? Is it, are you teaching? Are you doing a TED talk? How are you doing? So the way you pace yourself has to match that, right? So like the commencement speak I'm doing on Friday, I'm going to slow it down a little bit, because I want time for applause. I want time for people to really ingest what I'm saying. I want time for them to all take it in. But if I'm doing, a TED talk, I'm going to probably bring in more energy, right? So it's more excitement. It's more fast paced, right? It's like I'm giving it to them like, hey, I got 10 minutes to get this out. I want y'all to look at these slides and listen to me, right? So it depends on what you're doing, but all those things matter. If you're authentic, it's just going to come out how it needs to come out. It just always works, right? So all these keys I'm giving, it's going to work out whoever you are, because people tend to gravitate, when they notice that you're being genuine. However you speak, if you speak slow, fine, right? You might be good for lecture style. You just got to find your niche with speaking. Motivational speakers, if you ever notice, a lot of them pause for a while. That pregnant pause, they call it, is important, because it allows the suspense to build. They want to hang on every word. They want to know what you're about to say next. So you got to use all that, use all that and find your own speed, right? What works for you? Because I can say, like, when I get excited, I know I start speaking a little faster, right? But people feel that because they know I'm getting excited and I'm passionate about whatever I'm conveying.
Okay. So find your own pace. Make sure it's not too slow, not too fast. It's right in the Goldilocks zone. And also make sure to understand that your audience is feeding off of what you put out there. So if you feel nervous, admit it. If you feel very excited, admit it. And then use that also as a hook to draw in your audience. And then that way they have your attention and you have theirs. Okay.
Yes,
has there been a speaking gig where you would say nothing really landed in the audience? You had an audience that you told the joke, it didn't really land well. You told a statistic and it was just, flat. Has there ever been a time in your career that that's happened to you?
Thankfully, that hasn't happened yet, because again, I know that I'm not funny. So I don't do too many jokes, right? In my YouTube videos, probably people on the other side watching like, what, that was terrible. I'm doing the dad jokes, man. I'm throwing dad jokes out there. So, people probably are not laughing on the other side of that camera, but, it's all good. You got to have fun with it. You have to have fun with it. And one of the things I want to convey to listeners is sometimes when you're looking out there and you drop something, even if it looks like it didn't land, a lot of people are just internalizing it, right? They're just like, oh, wow, that statistic was crazy. Or, that joke, maybe they're like just snickering, right? You may not see it. They might be all the way in the back row. So I always say you don't have to really worry too much about that stuff, right? Don't really worry about the physical reactions. You just want to make sure that what you're making is valid, is important, and is you, authentically you, right? Speak about what you really want to share with the audience. That's all you have to worry about.
So it's about being authentic, who you are, your speech, even the way in which you present, in terms of if you use a slideshow or not, or you use props, kind of thing. Yeah.
Right.
Now, do you prefer to speak with or without a slideshow?
Me personally, I prefer to speak without one. But if I'm sharing like some information heavy material, then I would use a slideshow.
The slideshow. Yeah. And so do you think that because I've seen a bunch of speeches, it's usually on YouTube, and they have a person talking with a slideshow next to them. And it's very, I don't know, it's cringy feeling when you see the word on the screen and then you can see them looking at it and then they just say it to the audience. In terms of writing out your slides, is there a way that you do it where what is on the screen isn't what you say?
Yeah. If you're doing something that it's going to be a long speech or long anything, I would put like reminders, put bullet points, like what did you talk in the speech, just to remind you. You don't need to put the whole speech on there. That's cringeworthy, right? If you're sitting there like, yeah. But but like if you know that you may forget something, just put the bullet point. Just say like, oh, I wanted to talk about vulnerability here. I wanted to talk about forgiveness here. Just put that, and then maybe put some like even if it's just image. Right? Images are cool because people see it and they're like, oh, that matches to what they're saying. But it also could be a reminder for you, right? If you have a family who's like this, maybe you're talking about emotion, right? Or maybe you're talking about family. If you have a heart, maybe you're talking about love. So you could use those two as your keys, right? And it also just provides a visual to reinforce whatever you're speaking for the audience as well. Because one thing you don't want to do is have really busy slides, because it's hard for someone to pay attention to the slide and you. Right. So you want to make your slides, if you do have them, as plain as possible.
Okay. And what about sharing the slides? Have you ever done that before? Sharing the slides after the speech?
Yeah. It depends on what it is. Like if I know it was information heavy, then I'll probably share it, because people may look back and be like, okay, that's what they meant by that percentage point or something like that.
Okay. So it's making sure whenever you speak that your slides have its generalities, but they are specific to you. Like as you said, vulnerability. Right. So that's the time to tell the story about this and this. You have your forgiveness bullet point. That's just time to talk about this moment that happened with this person. Okay. So it's to have the bullet points.
Right.
And also to have use images, and that will then trigger the emotions that you need in order to remember your speech that comes after that, the words that you say after that.
Right. Okay. Exactly. You can use that, like if you don't want to, because I know even some people who just have like an index card. I don't personally like index cards in my hands because I will get lost just looking at them. But some people literally like keep that card in their hand. They have all their points in that one little card. Whatever works for you. If that's what works, you just don't want to have like a big old paper where you're like, oh yeah, oh yeah. No, you don't want to do that. But yeah, unless you're doing like a speech and you have to read that. But you see the presidents and stuff. But the best thing to do is just try to remember as much as possible, but also have improv, be able to improvise on things and remember your key points that you wanted to speak about, just to make sure you hit those, right? However you hit them, you want it to land, you want it to be impactful. But if you've been practicing, it should come out naturally. One more point is try not to turn your back to the audience, right? You always want to be kind of facing. Maybe if you turn, right, you want sideways, but try not to turn your back all the way to the audience. It's another point I would make.
And it's that so then that way it doesn't feel as if you are cutting yourself off from them.
Yep, cutting yourself off, and when you project, right, is going backwards. So now they could probably barely hear you unless you have the mic, right? So those are just some points you want to keep in mind.
Okay, so it's use bullet points on your slides, use images on your slides, and those are both for you, so then you can know exactly what to do next. Right. Also, it's to make sure that you are standing in front of your audience, you are moving your arms, being dynamic in a way that captures the audience's attention, and make sure that you always have eye contact with the audience, and don't turn their back on them ever. Okay.
Right. Yes. Yes, sir.
Nice. Well, Jevon, I want to thank you so much for spending your time on the Black Gold podcast. I have one more question for you, and that is, if you had the ability to send a worldwide text, what would your message be?
If I had the ability to send a worldwide text, first, I love that question, Moses. My message would be compassionate, be empathetic, be patient, be kind, be loving, but most importantly, be you.
Yeah. Is there any specific reason why you would say those?
I think that compassion is the key to me, from my opinion. Compassion is really the key to happiness for everyone. If everyone was compassionate and everyone shared that joy, there would be no need for all this war and stuff, right? Because we will be trying to help one another. We will be trying to share what we have. There wouldn't be all this competition. There'd be more collaboration, right? And I think that also, if you were being you authentically, right, it'll be a lot easier for people to know what you want. You'll share how you felt. You'll be more honest, right? There'll be more expression of feelings and emotions, right? There will be all of these things. And I feel like it will just put the world in a much better place than it is today. Do you mind if I share like how people can reach out to me?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. So reach out to me on all platforms. Live Not Loathe, right? That's IG, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, you name it. Just type in Live Not Loathe and I will pop up. You can also book your free discovery sessions at livenotloathe.com/ownyourkingdom. And get the book, ownyourkingdom.com. It's still for order available free sale.
I'll make sure to put the link in the description.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I appreciate your platform. I love what you're doing, man. Keep doing it, King.
Thank you so much, Jevon. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Appreciate yours.